Okay. I'll open one existing application. First, I'll just run that application to show what we are going to develop in this session. But don't worry about using this WebStorm right now. I'll just see the demo.
Shall we use Eclipse for this one?
Yeah, whatever. Notepad plus also.
But our convenience we are going to the because inbuilt it will provide integrated terminals.
Okay, so I'll give some heads up about Webpack. Webpack is like a build tool. So maybe some of you from Java background, you might be knowing like build tools like Ant or Maven. So Maven is a build tool, but internally it has some repository management as well, right? So Webpack is basically a bundling tool. In normal or traditional web application, what we develop usually, we'll have a lot of JavaScript files. Okay, using Webpack, we can bundle all the related or application related JavaScript files into one single file, and all the CSS into one single CSS. Okay, all vendor JavaScript into one. So our application will be very clear with very few external resources, so the loading time will be very fast when you deploy into server. Okay,
Is it like Java package?
so packaging, bundling tool, packaging. Okay, gets compiled. Okay, so this is the simple application we are going to create. So home page, some home content. Okay, the manage user screen. Okay, some grid table. We get this data from the server. Actually, I stored this data in MongoDB in Mongo Labs. So fetching, but that is out of scope for this session. So assume that you have some server REST API which is running on some server. You're going to consume that REST API. That is going to give just a JSON. Okay, use that JSON and display that in Angularjs application. Okay, so I consumed this from a different server, displaying here using Angular UI grid. So I'll give some information about UI grid, how to use that in our application. Okay, so again, this is a normal UI grid, and we have made some customization. Okay, like modifying the CSS and some other features. Okay, very basic and simple application. Okay, this is what we are going to develop now using JavaScript. I'll stop this. So in my previous session, I have explained about the AngularJS basic concept and terminologies. Okay, so even if you are not familiar, or if you are not, if you don't remember it, it's fine. Okay, now I'm going to explain the complete flow, how to create a basic AngularJS application. I'm going to create a new project. Okay, so I have an empty application. To start with, first we need AngularJS source. Okay, for that you have a lot of ways to download it. Maybe you can go to Angularjs website, select the required version and download it, or you can use Bower components, Bower to download it. Okay, but I prefer the using npm, that is node component, node package manager. Okay, this is also holding a repository, so you can get almost any libraries using npm, because that community is growing very large community, so they are contributing continuously, so you'll get almost everything in npm. Okay, so for creating that you need to have one package file. So these are some basic setup. So package.json, this is related to node. Okay, first thing you need to install node.js in your system. We just download it and install it. It's already installed in my system, but it's very simple to install. Node.js. Okay, the version you can take a latest stable version. So once you install, okay, so you will have package.json. After that, go to terminal. Okay, if you want to install Angularjs, okay, just say npm install okay. So after installing, it will create a folder called node modules. So this node modules contains all the modules whatever you download or install using npm. Okay, so here I installed Angularjs. Actually this is the wrong one, and here I have installed Angularjs. You can verify the version. It's 1.6.3. Suppose if you want to uninstall something, just say npm uninstall.
Actually, we need to install Node.js first, then only we can get the package of JS.
Correct. That npm component is available in node.js.
Okay.
Node is environment, npm is package manager. It's an automation tool to download from whatever packages from external repository to our local system.
Got it. Package.json, I just right click and create. You can create that using command line also. You just say
npm init.
npm init. Automatically it will ask some questions, right? To give that. So WebStorm by default it provides some facility to create a package file. Okay, so I use that to create it. So content, see, whenever I install it automatically add to this. So that is what I am going to show you now. Okay. So I install Angularjs. So you need to say --- save. So in package manager you have two concepts like dev dependency and dependencies. Okay, basically dependencies are core modules which are used for this application, and dev dependencies are some modules which will be used only when you build that or compile time. Okay, when you do your development activities, so that will not be really used when the application is moved to production. Okay, so here they have given two options. When you install, okay, just say npm install the module name. If you want to know the module names, just go npm
JS start. npm JS start.
Uninstall.
no, that npm repository or
என்ன பண்ணணும்?
js.com.
என்னென்ன
npm
plugins
JS.
இருக்கும்?
So go to this npmjs.com. So you can type if you want Angular JS. Okay, so you'll find all the related components. If you select this, it will say the comment also. Just copy npm install Angularjs. Okay, after that just type -s. So I feel that Angular should be in the core dependency, so I'll use -save. Okay, you can see this dependency is automatically added to the package. Okay, that's the beauty of this npm. Okay, but here if you see this, when I say Angular, okay, it got the most recent version or latest version, but I want to have some specific version of Angular. Okay, so in that case, if you know the exact version, so I want the version 1.4.14. okay, so if you see that the exact, okay, you just specify the version with @ symbol. So this is how I added all the dependency files. Okay, now my angular.js is available in this path. Okay, so I'm going to create a folder structure for this application. For that, you have a lot of way to create Angular application folder structure, but so you can have everything in one particular folder, but the best approach is to create modular wise. Okay, so if you have like 3-4 modules, home component or home module, user module, management module, just create the folder structure with the modules, then add the relevant files into that particular folder. Okay, so here I'll be creating directory called app. So this is my application directory. Inside this, I'll have my index.html. Okay, so to run this, so in npm you have one module called live server. Okay, just install that, npm I, then live-server. It's a very light server used to automatically detect the file changes. Okay, and okay, I have already installed in this. I'll just start this. Just say cd app.
It's live server.
Live server. Live. Okay, it will take the default port, and app is my source folder. Okay, inside this I have index.html. This will be loaded automatically. So if I type some Vijay, okay, so this will be automatically loaded here. Okay, without refreshing. So this is the advantage of using live server. You need not to run. So if the same thing if you want to do with Java, you know, they have a separate Tomcat server. You need to bundle it. Okay, create a war file, deploy it. So those things are not required when you use npm. It's very lightweight and very effective. Okay, so here actually I need 4 menu buttons, right? So in the application, if you see, I need 4 menu buttons. So for creating the menus, I'll go with Bootstrap. So in Bootstrap is the mobile enabled or mobile specific CSS. Okay, if you are not aware, just Google it, study through it. It has a lot of good features. So using one of the good features about Bootstrap is like it divides all the screens with some it use its grid system. For example, any devices can be divided into 12 columns. So I consider this particular resolution as a 12 columns. So even if you take any mobile or iPad, that is also again considered as 12 columns. So if I want to display this part, maybe I will categorize from here to here seconds. Okay, 1 minute, I'll show Bootstrap. Like this. So if I say 12 columns, it will take the complete available width. 6 means it will divide the available width into 2. Okay, you can place your component like that, and if you use the same application, view the same application different device, based on the resolution it automatically adjusts. You need not to create any fixed width
But
applications.
beauty of this CSS is we can construct table in div based div element, using div element instead of table.
Okay, so if you go with the tables, okay, that may not be very responsive if you view the same application in different. Okay, so tables mostly used in fixed width applications. For responsive application, div is the best choice, and if you use Bootstrap grid system, then it's easy. It automatically detects the screen size, and based on that you need to handle this dynamically in your code. If possible, I'll explain that, okay, in a different session maybe. Okay, so for adding navigation bar or to include Bootstrap, I need to include Bootstrap in my npm, right? So I'll add one more terminal. You click this button, okay, just say npm install so it's downloaded version 3.3.7. okay, it's available in Bootstrap. Okay, now I'll include Bootstrap and Angularjs into my application. A normal application, okay, a web application, you will include all your JavaScripts and CSS in your head, right? So I know Angularjs is required, just drag and drop. You know, in Bootstrap distribution CSS, this is required. So in general, always add all the CSS first, then add all the JavaScript files. Bootstrap, so that is the additional component. Okay, when you want to create so Bootstrap is a huge community to develop a lot of themes. Okay, so if you go with this, and if you want to create your application with theme based, okay, use this, or you can also download some customized themes from Bootstraps. Okay,
And also here one thing wanted to say, if you are putting below the script using some classes of CSS, it will not found, it will throw error. So you can put it for top of the element there in your style sheet CSS. After that you can use a script.
okay, one more thing. So if you use Bootstrap, Bootstrap will internally use jQuery. Okay, if that dependency is not included, okay, you may get some error. Okay, that will also show you. Okay, so I'll start using grid system. So div. It's very simple to use grid system. Just say.
You meant to say like you have to include jQuery related.
Yeah, in Bootstrap, if you see, it's a CSS I said, right? But it also supports some JavaScript functions. For example, okay, in this application I'll show you. So this is full width, right? Okay, if I reduce the size, automatically you can see the menu is reduced like this. For triggering this event, you need some JavaScript functions. So internally Bootstrap JavaScript will do that, but in turn it uses jQuery for doing this. Okay, so that's why it has some dependency. If I include this and start running, maybe okay, I'll complete something. Okay, in container it has some. Okay, this is the another advantage of using WebStorm. Okay, when you start typing, it automatically gives some auto suggestions. For that, you need to do some configuration as well. If it is not automatically coming, okay, in settings you have some. You need to do some configuration. Basically, you need to specify the libraries, whatever you want to add. Okay. It goes like this. Go to settings. If you don't find this toolbar, enable it, or go file settings. From there, JavaScript libraries, here you can add Angular or React.js or whatever it is. You can add those libraries. Then WebStorm will read those entries or index internally. So whenever you start typing, it will start giving the suggestions. Okay. So here a container and fluid container. Container is like fixed width. Okay, it could not load Bootstrap. Wait, what's the problem? Node modules. Okay, it's outside, right? I'll rerun this one second. Okay, so now this Bootstrap path is available. I used container, right, so that the fixed width is this. It will take some 1078 pixel or something.
Restricted to 1024.
1024, right? So if you use container fluid, this is responsive. It uses all the available width. Okay, like this. So to demonstrate this, I'll add another container. Okay, this is using the complete width. If I say just container, okay, now this is fixed width. So again, if it's responsive. Okay, so learn more about the grid system. Not fixed width, actually it takes 1024 as the maximum. Okay, it's not maximum width is 1024. Okay, so go with container fluid if you want to create full width application. Okay, so next thing I'll add some Angular application to this. I included Angularjs. I'll start writing some Angular code first. Okay, so create a variable that is your base module or the main app module, Angular module. Just say where app equal to, so you will get Angular object when you include Angular.js. Okay, so Angular dot module. So the syntax is Angular dot module. You need to specify some name for that. Your okay, so I'll say demo module or something, demo application. So for your Angular application, this is the entry point. Okay, so you can construct a lot of other modules and dynamically inject into this application. Okay, so basically this is a single page application. You always have this index.html as your entry point. From there, so 1 second. Here it looks like I have multiple pages, but It's actually a single page application. All these components will be separate index.html, but when you run it, okay, locally it will take the routing concept, okay, and a part of partial content. So header remains same and footer remains same. Only the content area will be dynamically loaded. If you want to do this in .NET or JSP or Java, you need to write some server-side code, right? Using tiles, you use struts, or in Visual, in .NET you will use what? Partial pages and include, right? Okay. Then in this square brackets you can inject
The submodules.
other modules. Okay, dynamically you can inject some modules. So here you can inject the modules with this name. So I can create, for example, if I have some other module, home module or something. Okay, I can inject this home module. Whatever I typed in this string, that can be injected here. Like that, injection dynamic injection will happen like this.
Here I'm having doubt.
Mm.
So the same concept exists in ASP.NET MVC kind of application. The same thing whichever you explained. Same thing.
It's already
How different is this from?
Different is the routing concept will happen in browser itself. But
see your data. Okay, your
We are not developing a partial page and also we will be developing the same way whichever you are explaining, and then in the index.html we will be mentioning this
Okay.
same thing. So we will be mentioning the module.
But .NET is like server plus HTML components is fixed, right? You have a combination of what HTML and data binding. You have in Angular it's
Are you
purely
talking
HTML.
about WPF?
ASP.NET MVC application. Razor.
Okay.
So it is actually the same way.
So in the pages you'll have only HTML or what? HTML components, or you'll have ASP
That is
components.
what, it is not ASP .NET or whichever we are doing. In ASP.NET MVC we can write our C# code itself.
Mhm.
But that is we call it as Razor technology. So we can include the modules like whichever you have mentioned. We
But
can
here the
include
modules
and
are
then
just
we can
JavaScript.
JavaScript and also splitting the business logic of routing and some other authentication.
Okay, so in general, if you are having multiple JavaScripts, okay, and you want to include or you want to use the other JavaScript function, what do you do?
Since I don't understand what.
So you have multiple JavaScript, separate JavaScript files. Okay, you want to call one function of a specific JavaScript function. Okay, so in that case, how will you access that? Basically,
in the same way whichever you have mentioned, right, where we will have all the JavaScript functions and then we will bundle it actually. So in the index.html itself it will have that.
okay, you have
We can
everything in that,
directly
right?
But there is one difference. All the JavaScript functions are attached to DOM. Here, any functions will not attach to DOM. It will attach to AngularJS.
Okay, so concepts like having a singleton object. Okay, a concept of creating module specific in JavaScript.
Once you are creating an object, then whenever you are trying to create or inject same module, it will not create again same object. It will reuse previous object. That is the concept.
Previous object.
See, basically AngularJS is nothing but a JavaScript, but it's a framework to create single page applications in a modular fashion. Okay, so whatever you have in your .NET MVC, it's again a framework, but that is developed using what? It's not purely JavaScript, right? It also has some C# component, right? Here the beauty is it's all involving only with JavaScript. So even in Java also we have a lot of framework like that, but in JavaScript there is no framework until Angular was introduced. Okay, so maybe the same concept they have used or implemented in JavaScript, that is called as AngularJS.
But that is implemented in server side itself only,
No, it's
client side.
But C sharp code? No, no,
Will
no.
be .cs.
No, you said C sharp code will be there, right?
That is actually mixed thing. So whichever
Oh,
case
you-
the extension
you
is
type the-
.html, so the
Okay.
file extension is
So
there.
the difference is you need a combination. Where you post your code, right? You need a IAS server or something that provides the runtime.
Yes.
Here, browser provides the runtime. Okay, everything will be compiled in the client machine and will be run there. All the logic will reside in the client side.
So will that application run in mobile?
It will run.
No, no, that is after deploying into server.
Yes.
You can host that
No,
application.
it is typical like how we used to have a
JSP.
JSP file. So there is a two concept. One is JavaScript, non-obstructive JavaScript, which means we will separate the JavaScript from HTML, and HTML will have only HTML. It won't confuse script with HTML. So how it evolved is jQuery came into the picture, which gives the provision of one form of non-obstructive JavaScript where we don't have to combine by using various listeners, bindings and all.
ஒரே ஒரு
Angular
மட்டும்
came into the picture with more level of framework kind of thing, MVC in client side, not and it will have all the components, but anyhow it has to hit some services to get the data. So they segregate completely, but even this MVC code has to be served by a server.
அதுதான்
For example, in Reader Manager, it is being served by the server and it will get into the client of browser and there it will run. So now things are going in that direction. Pure JavaScript separately, the backend code separately, HTML separately, CSS separately. Everything is non-obstructive so that we don't get confused.
okay. So here I'll add some dynamic features. The first thing is you need to specify the entry point. So this index.html is the entry point, right? But for you need to include this directive ng app, specify your main JavaScript variable, that is you defined here demo app. So now this module is injected. So basically it's a Angular JavaScript. AngularJS is the combination of JavaScript plus HTML. Okay. So you'll have a lot of directives in HTML. So when this HTML page is rendered using AngularJS parser, it identifies this particular tag directive and it gets the corresponding JavaScript application and it does the two-way bindings. Those things I explained in the previous session. Maybe if you want to refresh, you can have a basic tutorial session. A lot of online courses are available. Okay, simple. Okay, after adding this, so I want this particular name to be dynamically coming from.
Because only in Angular applications we see the objects with the ng modules and
ng is nothing but some prefixes.
It's a reference name of Angular. So every directive means, and wherever you will see ng, it's particularly a directive. Directive, what it will do, it will enhance the HTML behavior.
Yeah.
HTML tags will be there. They will add extra behavior to it. So here ng app, so it's telling your HTML compiler that a directive has been encountered. Please go to the Angular app or Angular framework and get the reference what needs to be done. So in this case, it is defining a module. That module has been there. So compile accordingly. So ng app will tell your HTML browser that our Angular application has started. So be careful, directive may come. So you need to work accordingly.
so Angular specific features are
Okay, think of Angular as a framework where you teach HTML new tricks. Okay.
exactly.
Okay, like div is one tag, right, in HTML. ng app is one more attribute you are adding to induce a specific behavior.
Not different.
Okay.
ng is an acronym. Angular.
It's a
See, NG,
If
Angular.
you have used jQuery, we might have used dollar and all.
See, the sound is like-
Representation of that particular.
There is no intention
NG is
at the
sound,
starting
right?
point for developing Angular JS. They are strict to bound NG as a
Okay.
prefix.
So for this main module, okay, app module, I can have configuration, controllers, service, factories. Okay, so but basically it's creating a MVC pattern in JavaScript side. So I'll add some controllers to this. So just give the controller name. Okay, so I just defined a control. Control is nothing but a simple function, JavaScript function. So this gets some inbuilt or readily available variables that is emitted from Angular.js. Okay, so here $scope is the in some variable which is available in Angular.js. So that is used to do the two-way bindings. So I get this. Okay, now for this div I need to specify the controller. Let's specify this controller. Okay, once you bind this controller here, specify this controller here, whatever variables you define here, that can be easily accessed. How to zoom?
What is
Zoom.
font size English?
எங்க இருக்கு ஆப்ஷன்? இங்க இருக்கும்.
ரெகுலராக யூஸ் பண்ணதெல்லாம் கிடையாது. வியூ தருது.
Okay, that's fine, right?
இது மறைஞ்சிருச்சு. அவருக்கு தெரியாது. நீங்க
Okay. So what I did is I created a controller. Okay. In controller I injected this scope variable and added some variables to this scope. Okay. Dollar again. I'll add one more variable. Okay. Okay. So this variable, whatever you have inside this $scope can be accessed within this div scope. Okay. So just use this double curly braces and access this. So now it should say welcome Vijay and test. Okay. So this is how it works.
Kind of parameters.
template. So on the dynamic value you are injecting into HTML.
See, I'll tell the real case. Okay, in the front HTML you just create your templates only. So these variables,
Like from JSON.
yeah.
passing.
So you will access some REST API, get the values, and populate here. So that will be dynamically displayed in the HTML. So whereas in other applications, Java or other application, you need to get that reference And for example, JSP or ASP, how you do? You get that request scope variables, right? In request, you will set some variable. From there, you will access with some scriptlets.
How you map, like for example, in the JSON payload, you have a parameter called name. So you are just putting it as a name.
Simple access
Yeah,
the JSON.
there is, you can see the scope, dollar
The
scope.
base URI, all those things you have to use.
I'll explain that in separate project. Okay.
I remember you were telling all this Angular code should go under NG app tag.
NG?
NG app.
Yeah.
NG app. No. NG app is something.
Everything should go under this, right?
It can either be defined at the top or the
Okay, it could be anywhere. Okay.
can
Like
be
in
defined at the top
HTML.
or at any detail you want.
So main thing is, if this controller, whatever is I defined, is accessible within this ng controller tag. If I add this outside this, because the scope is okay, the scope for this controller is within this div. If I add this outside, okay, because the directory will not get this value. See, it's not there. So it should be, so you can have n number of controllers within a page and access the corresponding variables defined within that particular controller. Okay.
I know from where it is getting the value, the below thing, right?
Yeah, it gets from the controller.
That is dollar scope. Dollar scope is a controller of local scope.
So if you want to get it from two different places, like you have name same name, so how you will?
If you want to access outside of the demo controller of scope variable, you can use root scope. Root scope is a global scope.
My question is about like you are having same name, like it is a parameter in two different services.
Okay.
Okay.
But see, ultimately you are mapping to the controller, right? There you write a different names. See, I have two different controllers. Okay. Maybe the controller. Okay, you are getting the values from two different services that may have the same name as the field name, right? That's fine, because you will assign that to a different parent variable. For example, control 1 is the parent, right?
Okay.
So start from that. It can have
Like in some places they will say the parent dot name.
Yeah.
So
same way.
Okay.
So here the best practice is instead of using scope variable, I will use that controller itself. So I'll give some alias name to the controller and access those variables using that controller name. So in that case, the ambiguity will not come. Okay, so running out of time, I'll show the okay. So I'll show the complete application which was created using JavaScript. So usually this is my app.js will be the entry point. Here you see I'll have a main app which is Angularjs demo. It has demo control module, UI router. UI router is something which is required to route. For example, here we have multiple menu option, right? So when I click this, some other HTML content should be loaded here. That routing concept, for that we need some third-party module, that is UI router module. Okay, and UI grid module is for displaying the grid, and okay, that is written here, UI grid, UI. Okay, and I'll explain about the state config also. Just open this. For example, you have 4 menus. So when you click the menu, which template should be loaded? So again, this template will be associated with some other controller. It's all template based. You go to a different page, that will again have some other controller. That controller will interact with some other service, get those data, okay, and associate with that particular controller.
So here it displays like different HTML pages. So we are mapping to the different HTML pages. Because I cannot understand the difference. Like initially you told like in the same pages we are showing it as modules. So we can that is kind of same page, but when you click on the next page, it is being populated within. But now the HTML pages URL are different. So
Yeah.
how,
This is
what,
root.
how
Yeah.
it is achieved? What is
This is router.
Okay, I want to explain that concept then.
It's like a single page. And when you
See, 1 minute, I'll explain that part. Okay. Say for example, the home button, admin button is there. Okay, so on click of admin button, I need to load the corresponding HTML template for that admin screen, and also I'll need to load that controller associated with that. Okay, so for that you need to specify UIREF. This is the directive, UIREF sref. Okay, when it sees UI sref, it goes to the configuration of router configuration. Okay, so there I mentioned as, okay, name is admin, right? So it refers for the name admin.
admin.html?
No, name is admin. Okay, so when it finds this, it gets the template URL as this. Okay, whatever I defined here, that content will be loaded inside that. So for that, in index.html, you need to have this part, a div UI view. So this is the part where dynamic content will be automatically added. So rest of the things will remain changed. So when you change the routing, the dynamic content will be added within this div tag. Okay, this particular tag. So that concept is simple. So if you used routing like this.
Because I don't know how it was happening before. What is achieved? Like the page will be loaded with the same page. How
So
it
previously they use frame sets.
Yeah,
achieve
difference
this.
is
yeah, something is
One-
the advantage, right? What is the advantage?
The advantage
Advantage-
is once loaded your index.html, whatever JS or CSS it will be loaded at the time. First itself. After that, whenever clicking the action of routing,
Okay.
that partial HTML content only loaded.
Okay.
So
So rest
directly
of the JS and
changes-
CSS will not load.
See, it can be you can do this with the help of a server. Okay, using Ajax concept. So only the particular div content can be retrieved from server using Ajax and load it. But here you are not using any Ajax. So you are getting the content using JavaScript, dynamic content, using different templates.
So, like the CSS which is already preloaded, you will just change the
markup
page
only
content alone.
changing.
So, that
So
will
using
give us some
JavaScript,
efforts.
Angular,
Yeah,
we-
efforts. Okay.
Okay. So 30 minutes only there. Okay. Okay, so you can put all your CSS, like creating an asset folder, put all your CSS, images, and your JavaScript in components. Admin component, create admin HTML. Okay, controllers, directives, whatever is there, you create a separate file and create a modularized file. Okay, let's move to TypeScript, the same application. Okay, but
Flow for only mentioned there. The default one, right? What do you mean by default?
default in the sense it's the main entry point,
In the flow for
because you are giving that reference here. See, ng app is the main entry. Okay, so for that you are in. Okay.
Okay, my question is index.html is the entry point. So from there, how this is mentioned as
Okay, once you go to index.html, search for ng app. Okay, in ng app you will specify some string. That is nothing but Angular module. So that module is the main module. In that module you will inject all other sub modules. So it goes like that. So it constructs all the required modules and keep the DOM. Okay. Okay, maybe it's not clear the previous application, whatever I showed. unless you I will share the source code. Okay, you just go through it. It's a very simple application with few JavaScripts only. You just read the AngularJS concept and compare that source code, it will be clear. But this main objective of this session is to explain how to create same application using TypeScript. Okay. So I have configured the Webpack here for creating the bundles. Okay, I am not explaining that here. Maybe later I will explain. Now I will tell you what it does. So my application structure is. So previously in the earlier example, if you see, I added all the JavaScript. I didn't compile or I didn't do any building activities. So whatever I just added, it run in the web server, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'll have a separate folder structure and I'll use Webpack to build this to create distribution files. So using Webpack you can create development level build and production level build. Production level build means you can minify and uglify your code. Okay. In development level you can convert all your TypeScript into JavaScript. TypeScript is basically a superset of JavaScript. So in JavaScript basically you don't have a typing concept. For example, your function requires an object, type of person object or city object or something, some model. But you cannot force that always it gets that. Any JSON if you pass it will accept. Okay, but with TypeScript you can say, you can define a particular object with a specific type. For example, person or employee object. Then you specify that particular type in your parameter, so that only object with the type employee only it can be allowed into that function. So that's the main advantage. In JavaScript, in general JavaScript, it's not there. So you can have a function which is actually expecting a string, but even if you pass integer or a boolean, it automatically accepts it. So to avoid that, you need to create your JavaScript with a strongly typed. So that is the core idea. So with that, what are the advantages? Means you can find all the issues in the compile time itself. Okay, rather than running, so you get the actual value from the server. Again, instead of string, you get an integer and passing it to the function. The application breaks at some point, right? So instead of finding those kind of issues, so you will fix everything in the compile time itself. For that environment setup, you need to have source folder where you will have application folder. Inside that you can define all your components. Admin. Okay. So your HTML will go here and you can create your TypeScript. For example, I have a city module. In this is my HTML. This is my TypeScript. This component.ts, okay, in Angular for you will have different components like services, controller and model. Okay. So with this TypeScript I can have each one as a separate class. For example, this is service, my controller is here, I can have my model also. Okay. So this service, what it is going to do is, it is going to connect to your external website, okay, REST API to fetch the data, and it will set that data into this model. Okay, when you do this, that time itself you will identify if any variable or particular value is not there. So when you define any particular model, you can specify whether this is mandatory or not also. You can also set some optional variables. So if those particular mandatory fields is not available in the response what you are getting from REST API, it will throw error. Okay, so those are major advantage of using this. Okay, in the controller,
Same with defaulting.
hmm?
Defaulting also.
Defaulting.
In the sense, okay, I'm expecting some value.
Mm,
It's
mm.
not there, so I can default.
Yeah, any default is there. Okay, default is like any, or in Java you have object, right? You can still use an object here. Okay. So for when you define any type as object, you pass any JSON. Okay.
Shall we use only REST as a programming interface, or shall we go with SOAP as well for
Okay, basically you get if you use SOAP, then you will get XML, right?
this?
Then you need to have some parser to parse that XML and convert it into JSON.
Also supports that.
That you need to write. Okay, that part. So if it is JSON, you can directly use it. If it is XML, you need to write one more wrapper class to convert that XML in your JavaScript. Okay. This is components. What else is there? Okay. So I'll tell some core difference of creating constructors or any class.
Can you just go back to the previous one?
Which one? Services or?
Yeah, the services.
Hmm.
So you said you were just invoking, right?
Hmm.
And it is setting the value, right?
No, it's just returning the value. Here I have not written that way.
Okay.
Okay.
So where it's actually setting the value?
Okay. So this service is called from, because I wrote this generic way, gets city service, right? This city service is called from city controller. Okay, in the controller I have a method called get cities. This get cities will be called from your HTML or when the application loads. Whenever you click that menu, first thing it goes and calls this method get cities. Okay, internally it calls the city service. City service will call get all cities. Okay, here, so I'm doing Angular copy. I get the response data and doing here. So instead of this, what I do, I just use copy. Instead of grid data, I can give the city model, this model. Okay, so that value will be automatically populated here. Or, no, grid is this one. Okay, I have the grid here, right? So for this purpose I have used. I need to provide some array of objects to this to populate this. So that example is not very clear, but maybe whatever I explained, right? Comparing, getting the response and assigning to particular model, that is achievable. Okay, so I'll show you. So when I run this Webpack, okay, this is my folder structure. I have source, application, asserts, and some fonts and node modules. Okay, but the actual distribution, when I want to deploy in a server, so I want some simple structure with one index. So that is actually the representation of the previous application, what I explained before. So it will have app, asserts, and basic things, right? So this folder structure is using Typescript. So that Typescript, it can be written like, you don't need to. Okay, I'll show my index.html. In this index.html, I will not have any reference to the JavaScript files which I have included. In my previous example, I showed this part, right? So I'll add this, all the CSS, JavaScripts, okay? But here, this is not required actually, because Webpack is going to get all the JavaScript, required JavaScript, and bundle it. But somewhere you need to make some entry, right? So that it reads in that order and bundles it. So that part, so okay, I'll explain that part. So main.ts, this is the entry point. It is something similar to app.js, what you have in normal AngularJS application. In main.ts, this is a TypeScript file. Okay, so you get Angular. So, okay, in normal application, you include Angular as this. Okay, node modules, Angular, AngularJS. So that Angular will be added to your window object. But in TypeScript, it's a compile time itself, you need that object. So for that, you need to have something called as typings. So in Java, you have a compiler, right? So compiler will read the source code and get the typings. But for JavaScript, there should be some description about this JavaScript. So for that, originally this Angular.js was written in, it's a simple JavaScript, right? But the description what I'm talking about, okay? So for that, there is a huge community called Definitely Type. So they are creating can go here. So they have created for Angular also. Angular, lot of almost all the libraries which were written in plain JavaScript. Okay, so for providing the TypeScript facility, this community is creating TypeScript definitions. So when compiling, my TypeScript compiler will look for this description files that is stored as name.d.ts. Okay, so it internally look for that particular file and get the type references from there and do the validation on while typing. So our code, we actually use classes so that it can take the references from while we define in the classes. But for any normal JavaScript, if you want to use TypeScript, you need to have that particular definition files. Okay, so those definition you need to include. I'll show you.
Definitely type this only for that
description. Yeah.
So internally it will still use the actual JavaScript source for.
Yeah, it refers.
Difference is you have JavaScript, but you doesn't know the type definition how to do that. If someone know your source code, can they read and they written in type definitions for your JavaScript.
Okay.
If you want to compile TypeScript, you need that type definition file for compile to generate JavaScript from TypeScript.
Okay, so you can see here at types Angular, at types.
Here, this TypeScript is for development purpose or
For development purpose. So it makes our job simple. Okay, you can find all your errors in compile time. So see, in JavaScript, there is no concept called compiling previously.
So like
it's an interpreted
server-side
language.
coding, you
Yeah.
implemented the same thing in the client.
Yeah.
Will that add any responsibilities or add any space or anything to the rendering, like a browser we are rendering?
Yeah,
A lot
difference is once you are going to create a TypeScript file, it will get compiled and generated JavaScript source file.
Source file, okay.
Yeah, the difference is the beauty is if you are created in TypeScript for ES5 version of JavaScript. If you want to generate ES6 version of JavaScript, you no need to create again TypeScript files. You can simply change TypeScript configuration file. I need ES5 instead of ES4. So we can define it ES5 or ES6. There itself, change and compile it. It will generate ES6 version of JavaScript.
Okay, basically this is the concept. Target, you know about ES5 or ES6, right? So those are JavaScript versions. So browser,
I heard, but I have not.
I'll show you. Okay.
Also, we cannot understand easily JavaScript class extensions.
See, in future JavaScript will be very advanced, yeah, because that will be more or less similar to Java or C# type of coding. So you will have a lot of annotations, you will have import commands, okay. But problem is that is till now most of the browsers are not supporting ES6 scripts. So we still writing our JavaScript in lower levels only. So you can see this. These are a lot of new features available in ES6 but current browser is supporting. Okay, but we need to have some this concept. I'll explain what is polyfills and transpiler. Transpiler is something converts your TypeScript or your current code to some other formats, lower versions or higher version. So TypeScript internally use its own transpiler, or you can change the transpiler to change the target. So you write the source code in one particular format. In Java, it's there. You write a code and you can compile to a different version, lower version, right? Something similar to that. So that browser will understand. So you have a concept called polyfills here. This one. This concept is, okay, what it does is, I target a modern browser and write some advanced features in my application, but when the same code runs in lower version, okay, so it cannot support all the features which actually expected, right? So for that you have something called as polyfills that will have the equivalent implementation that will be automatically added to the emitted JavaScript file. So these are the advantage. You need not to take additional efforts.
But this file general will be running into client browser. So
No,
this
no.
decision, how it will identify, okay, this browser is not compatible. So they are written in whether this file will be in the server side or client side.
Client side only. So it's all purely client side. See, the client browser, okay.
So then
What?
the client browser only will take this decision, right? Okay, now I'm in the older version, so okay, I don't
but-
understand this file. Okay, we convert
Okay,
that
you need to
for-
have some component to take the decision, right? That component you need not to have add separately. If you use TypeScript and polyfill, okay, it has some inbuilt features to add those components additionally. Okay, if you don't use those components, okay, your browser will, your application will run only in particular browsers. In some other browsers, it will have weird behavior. So to avoid all those things, you need to consider all this in your development activities. Okay. So TS config compilation, you have a lot of options.
This is part of software using for TypeScript.
Okay. So source map is the one thing. So basically TypeScript that will generate a JavaScript file, but that generated JavaScript file I'll show you. Okay, I don't. So it's not very readable format, but you need to debug it, right? In the browser, in the Chrome browser, sometimes you may need to do the debug. So for that you need to have the original TypeScript. So for that you need to have the source mapping. So source mapping will be added in this bundle itself, but when it is rendered in browser debugger, automatically the original code will be retrieved back. Okay. So bundling part. So okay, I'll come to that. So for that, maybe you need to have some check this one Webpack website. Get some basic understanding also. I'll also explain here. This is a bit complicated. Okay. So Webpack internally use one configuration file. So you just need to configure. It will have entry points. Entry points in the sense your in normal application in index.html you define all your CSS and JavaScript, right? So here you will have all the imports. In Java also it's when you have the class loader, what it does from the main class, the loader will automatically load all the dependency files, right? Something like that. Okay. So I have this entry point. I'll show the entry point. Yeah, I have 4 different entries main. This will contain all my application related JavaScript files, and polyfills is the one I explained. Okay, that JavaScript will add backward compatibility. Vendor okay, all AngularJS, Bootstrap or whatever other applications, we'll add all those entries in vendor. And styles, our own style sheets. Okay, so at the end I will get 4 files: main.js, polyfills.js, vendor.js. so you can have some configuration so that will be, this is the generated output. Okay, so here you can see, okay, this inline bundle, polyfills bundle, those are automatically injected in this HTML. So Webpack, what it does, it takes the index file from the source. After creating the bundles, it dynamically inject all the required JavaScripts, so that this distribution, you just go to this distribution and start your server. This is ready to deploy. Okay, so you can do some configurations. Okay, Webpack runs with the concept called loaders. Basically, what is loader means, based on the type of the file. If it is a JavaScript file, okay, so you need to have source map loader. If it is JSON file, JSON loader. For HTML, HTML loader. CSS, CSS loader. What it does, you can specify. For example, my requirement is this. I'll explain one requirement. Okay, all my images or fonts. Okay, in the entry point, in the vendor entry point, you add Bootstrap or whatever it is. So it goes to the, you specify the directory level. It goes to the directory, it checks all the files inside that. So whenever it finds any JS file, okay, then this particular rule will be executed. So if it is JSON, what it needs to do. Okay, if it is a TypeScript, then TypeScript loader will be. Sometimes if it is a font, what I want to extract all the fonts and put it in a separate folder like assets, fonts. So for that you need to specify file loader, then you need to give this kind of definition, put it into separate folders. So output files into separate folders. You can copy all your required HTMLs into a separate folder. Yeah, because when you run this application, okay, after bundling, when you run this application, when that font is required, okay, it will have file loader or URL loader. Okay, internally all your configurations will be changed. So internally it will make another call to your bundle. So bundle will serve that font. It knows after restructuring it, it knows where the restructured fonts are located. So it will serve from that place.
The first preference always goes to the local team, right? If local team has that, so this font is power of
No, here font, okay, first preference will be here only. It will override that. Okay, then only it will go to the machine. So anything else is there?
You have 3 minutes.
Okay. Okay, city. Source app. Okay, I'll show this main entry. Okay, so here what we do is this is my main app, which is something similar to the normal AngularJS application. You have Angular.module. Okay, then these are the modules which were created in separately by us, like main module, home module, with the same syntax. any main module, any module will have its own controller or services or configurations. So those will be injected, because here this will be very clear, because whatever you want you can inject, otherwise just remove it. Okay, if you comment out a home module, then that is removed. Then root configuration also same, exactly similar to what we have before. What else is there? This is some filter. So this template catch and run, okay, that's you can Google and understand what it is, basic. Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question. Now you have a type definition file, right? See, for an example, if now we are using TypeScript with Angular 1.4. Now we are using the same TypeScript with Angular 2.0. Is that
No, it's not possible.
Not possible.
Not possible. For Angular 2, they'll okay, type definition is not required because they developed using TypeScript only. Okay, so internally it will have with the distribution, so not required.
Not required.
Okay. So that particular TypeScript will support only till a particular version. That carrying you need to take care.
Some versions after they will provide own type definition. Now we are taking third-party type definition.
Okay.
That is the difference.
That's what I was just thinking, because it's a kind of definition file, right? I was thinking like for each version you can create your own definition file or something.
Not required. So that is required because you can strongly support it. So if, for example, I'll show you. Okay, so I'm injecting state provider. I'll say this should be iState provider or root provider, then it should be iURL provider. Strongly forcing that. Otherwise, I can put anything into this constructor, right? So that will be eliminated. That reason. Distribution folder. Okay.
It will create.
Okay, I'll delete this. What we are doing is in package.json, I have scripts. Okay, in that build is there. I'm using webpack command. That's it. Webpack will read the webpack configuration, and whatever we define here, it will start doing that.
Why are we using TypeScript? I heard something like we can use oops concepts in JavaScript. So if it is
Oops concepts is there, but again that is not strongly typed. So you cannot use typing there. The problem which I said, right? So you are expecting an employee object, but you can inject anything that will support. But if you use TypeScript, it forces you to check the types. That's our advantage. So internally, oops concept, all those JavaScript will be. You can go to this website, playground, TypeScript. Just go to this site.
Difficult by JavaScript completely. If you are going to create an object, we cannot doesn't know how to create, because there is a lot of features. But we cannot completely know.
We are starting at this point.
So you see, one
Because I
second.
see the
Karthik.
But difference is, if you are going to create types, you can easily see the class name, also interface. Like
So refactoring is easy.
If you are coming from a different skill set, you can easily understand the coding structure and coding flow.
Okay.
Very important, and also we can generate whatever version of the
ஆக்சுவலாக இது படிக்கணும்னா எல்லா ரிசோர்ஸ் இருக்காது கெட் ஸ்டார்டட் வித் இட்
ஓகே அவங்க இதில் நல்லா தான் இருக்கும் டைப்ஸ்கிரிப்ட் ஆர்ச்
டாட் ஆர்ட் டைப்ஸ்கிரிப்டுக்கு பிளே கிரவுண்ட் அந்த மாதிரி
ஸோ இதுதான் நம்ம டைப்ஸ்கிரிப்டில் எழுதின கிளாஸ் ஓகே ஸோ இது வந்து ஜாவா ஸ்கிரிப்டாக வரும்போது எப்படி வருதுன்னு நீங்கள் பார்க்கலாம் நீங்கள் ஆக்சுவலாக எழுதணும்னா இந்த மாதிரி தான் எழுதணும் இருக்கும் ஆமான்னு நினைக்கிறேன் ஐயோ அதை வேற வந்துட்டேன்
அப்படின்னா சங்கரி வினீத்தை பற்றி இது பண்ண